I wanted to get my horse off of a sweet feed and was immediately overwhelmed by the amount of choices, as we were just discussing.
Right.
How do you decide on a feed, and what happens when the recommended amount is too much feed at once? How much is too much? How much should I be giving my horse per feeding if he gets fed twice a day? Okay. So knowing nothing about Riley's horse, what would you say?
Well, there were, like, every sentence in that question was a question.
Yep.
So you're going to have to tell me, keep track of the questions. I think I want to start with how much is too much.
Great.
Because there's math. Like, you can always go back to math.
I'm nervous again.
No, it's fine. So the rule of thumb for how much can you feed concentrated, grain-wise, at one time, in one meal, is 0.5% of body weight. Okay. So for a 1,000-pound horse, and it's 5 pounds.
Yep. I could have done that one.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to put you on the spot.
I know, I appreciate that.
So we brought this out because this is called a polder, and you buy it at, Bed Bath & Beyond or Amazon or wherever they have kitchen things. It's a kitchen thing. I don't spend much time in the kitchen, but it's a kitchen thing. So what it does is it weighs up to 5 pounds, and you balance it first, and then you add weight in, and you can do it by like a pound at a time, and then put it in your bucket, whatever. But we practice with a team to see what 5 pounds looks like, and it's like half this bucket or more. It's a lot of grain, so that's a lot to feed at one time, and it's why we say small meals frequently. So you might feed, if your horse truly has to say, let's do 6 because it's better math, 6 pounds of grain a day because the bag says, then it would be like 2 pounds in breakfast, 2 pounds at lunch, and 2 pounds at dinner. That's much better. So that's the amount. So what else was there?
There was how much should I be giving my horse per feeding if he gets fed twice a day? So you covered that. You look at the total amount.
So like 3 and 3 would be good? Yeah.
Sure. And then how do you decide on a feed, and what happens when the recommended amount to feed is too much at once?
Okay, so when the recommended amount is too much at once, you keep dividing it until it gets to be a smaller amount that fits within that 0.5% of body weight at a time. And the reason for that is gastric ulcers and colic, because their digestive systems just are not made to handle concentrates like this. They're made to handle forages. You can feed them as much forage as you want, and because they have to chew it and it goes through slower and it goes to the hindgut to be digested, fermented, and then absorbed, that's all great, but the grain is processed in the stomach and small intestine. It can quickly get overwhelmed.
So the meat of the question, I think, is going to be, how do you decide?
Yeah, and I want to go back to the first questions that, like, one person had the overweight horse, and one had the underweight horse. So clearly they would purchase different products, right? For the overweight horse, I would look for a ration balancer. And a ration balancer is one that I kind of mentioned, doesn't really add calories. You feed it in about 1 pound or 2 pounds a day. So it's like the horse thinks they're getting something, it makes noise in the bucket, but it's not a lot of volume. And it supplies the vitamins, minerals, and protein that the horse needs. That, combined with their forage, is a complete and balanced diet, but it didn't add calories. Now, for the hard keeper, then you might need something that's a bit more calorie dense, and so you would look for. There's categories of feeds that aren't technically sweet feeds, but they provide, in addition to the vitamins and minerals and the protein of the ration balancer, they provide calories too. So that's what I would go with on a horse that needs to gain weight. A lot of people like the complete feeds, the senior feeds. Just remember, those are hay and grain in a bag. So on the label, the bag, it'll say to provide all the vitamins and minerals and protein, you might need to feed 15, 18, 20 pounds of this.
And so if 5 pounds is here...
Oh, it's like 4 buckets.
Yeah.
So if you're feeding a complete feed, just understand that you're going to have to either feed all that the bag says or supplement it with maybe a multivitamin to bring those nutrient levels up.
Okay.
But some horses do really well on complete feeds. I would not mix feeds. I think that feed companies, when they make feeds, they do a really good job of making a feed for a purpose. But I know people who mix 2, 3, 4 feeds, and I think that gets a little muddy. So choose your feed, and then use that journal we talked about, and body condition score, and weight tape, and keep a record of how, like, does your horse even like it?
Right. Never a problem for human.
Never a problem. The cost of it, I mean, and how his weight is doing on it. So if you've got this easy keeper and you put him on something and he gains weight, well, that's not the food for him. And conversely with the hard keeper, if you put him on something and he loses weight, then switch. But switch gradually, because we know grain changes 10 times risk of colic.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I know.
All change is gradual, which can make it hard, because if you're trying it for 2 weeks and you have to make changes in between gradually, like
It's a
everything
long
else with
time.
horses, patience, patience, patience.
Hard.